One of the things I remember about Al was his statement to us about, I never had a job. I never had a regular job. I didn't work for anybody. I always did my own thing. And he was pretty proud of that. I taught for about 37 years at the University of Portland. I had a lot of classes that he would come into, and he would talk about his views on various aspects of psychology and resiliency and survivor personality and things like this. One summer, I took a class out to his house, and he spoke out there very informally. That was really neat. And then he had his famous blackberry cobbler for all the students. He was so good at making that, and we always enjoyed that in men's group meetings during the summertime when we do that. He spoke about, in our meetings, he spoke about what he was working on, about survivor personality initially, and then resiliency. And I remember him talking about, he didn't brag much about this, but he happened to mention he had been in the, I think it was 101st Airborne, Korea, and they lost 90-some% of the troops there in the 101st. He was a survivor himself in a lot of ways, like Larry pointed out here too. And the people he interviewed were fascinating, talking about the couple at the coast where the man and woman were held by some escaped murderers, and the man was forced to watch his wife being raped by one of the murderers, and about the fellow who climbed Kilimanjaro, and he was semi-frozen in the snow. The people were trying to get off of the mountain, and everyone thought he was dead, and no one paid attention to him. They kind of stepped over him or on him or whatever. He eventually got up and came down the mountain, got down there himself. He survived. Al talked about, I remember this fellow that played ping pong in a prison. And he played against two of the top ping pong players at the prison. And when he got done, Al switched to an interview of him, and the fellow said, you know, I would never have changed anything in my life. I'm glad that everything that did happen to me happened to me. And then he wheels off in a wheelchair. And before this, we didn't know he was in a wheelchair.
Wow.
And Al's point was that the things that happen to us, we don't always control. And how do we make the best of those things? And instead of focusing on the negatives, instead of focusing on the way we categorize people with psychological diseases or problems, he focused on the positive. Initially it was surviving, later it was resiliency. Let's make this positive. Let's go for the positive. And I think that that is extremely important and representative of Al, and I hope the people that see this will emphasize going for the positive too. Thank you.
Yeah, you focus on mental health, not on mental illness.
Yes.
Absolutely.
As you may have guessed, Jack has been a professor for most of his career after working in human resources for a number of years.
Had a regular job.